hate crimes have spiked by 35% in 2021. And that's according to FBI statistics. And bear in mind that when it comes to FBI stats, that means that those are the ones that were reported. The vast majority are not reported. In addition to that, not only are a lot of hate crimes not reported to police, but a lot of police do not provide their data on it or do not categorize them as such. So knowing that this has increased despite the fact that it's not there in terms of the data or that there are already weaknesses, that should tell you that there's probably a much larger issue than we've seen. So we know that the FBI did record a total of 10,840 hate crime incidents in 2021, up from 8,052 in 2020. And that's according to the additional supplemental data from the agency's annual hate crimes report. This per the New York Times. The Bureau had released hate crime statistics in December, but had announced it could not compile accurate data because the scores of police departments across the country, including New York City and most cities in California, had not submitted information to a new enhanced national reporting system. Now, the increase is largely based on a spike in hate crimes that targeted people for their sexual orientation or gender identity. Yep, so the FBI recorded 1,707 anti-LGBT hate crimes in 2021. That's a 54% increase from those recorded in 2022. In those incidents, 1,979 people were targeted for their sexual orientation. And also based on a UCLA estimate of 10 million LGBT individuals who identify as such, that means that roughly 1 in every 5,000 lesbian, gay, or bisexual people in the US were a victim of a hate crime. That's a lot. Hate crimes against transgender and gender nonconforming people, well, they rose by 29% in 2021, with 342 incidents recorded versus 266 incidents in 2020. Also bear in mind that when we're talking about the trans community, we're talking about less than 2% of the US population. And a lot of individuals do not report to police because police will not help uplift or support them in any way. So again, these are just the ones that are reported and from the offices and the departments that actually keep stats who shared them with law enforcement. Yeah, this is really reflective of our society. We also know that the same UCLA study estimated that there were about 1.4 million trans people in the US, as I mentioned. Also really meaning that the FBI recorded 1 anti-trans hate crime victim for every 3,500 members of our community. That's wild. It just continues to show you that there is considerable hate. Also, the bigots are still out there being racist. In raw numbers, hate crimes, discrimination on race, ethnicity, ancestry was the biggest. The FBI recorded 6,600 hate crimes in that category in terms of race in 2021, up 27% from 5,227. Black Americans were the most often targeted group for their race or ethnicity. 1 anti-Black hate victim was reported for about every 1,200 Black people in the country. Asian Americans were also disproportionately targeted with roughly 1 reported victim for every 23,000 members of that group. The FBI also recorded 909 anti-Hispanic hate crime victims, over 698 incidents, accounting for roughly 1 reported victim for every 70,000 Hispanics in the country. And despite the right wing decrying reverse racism, well, the data really doesn't bear it out. So in 1,107 incidents, 1,341 white Americans were targeted for their race, accounting for 1 victim for every 170,000 white Americans. And the latest category investigated was hate crime based on religious affiliation, with Sikhism, Judaism, and Islam followers having the highest risk of victimization per individual. FBI registered 185 incidents targeting 195 Sikhs, meaning roughly 1 in every 2,500. FBI recorded 817 anti-Semitic incidents targeting 869 people and 152 incidents targeting Muslims. It really does show you that hate is very much alive and well. And definitely what I will say as it concerns Black people and the rise in incidents of anti-Black hate being the most often targeted group for their race. I will also say that this increase is also a result of the George Floyd protests and the push for change, because that's how it works in the United States. Whenever there is a push for justice, whenever there is any indicia that maybe the playing field is becoming just that little bit more level for Black people, there is always a push for the pendulum to swing back. And that's exactly what these individuals have tried to do in terms of silencing Black people to keep us in fear. And this is truly a reflection of the hate that underlines our society, and the reason that it will continue to persist until it is addressed and racism is something that people take seriously and actually do the work to resolve. Alonzo.
Again, Adrienne, you bring up these topics that are just so big to try to comment on. So, Black people are still the #1 hated group in America. Yeah, because the fear is still fed, right? And you have like DeSantis with this whole thing of, no, we're not going to teach the actual history of America and how poorly Black people have been treated because some white people might feel bad. The fact that we've added new groups in our hate statistics, again, mind-boggling. Like, oh yeah, now we have to add that the people that they hate for being in the LGBTQ community and start dividing up how they're attacked for who they are, and then the religious affiliation, and now you have the overlap, right? You definitely have an overlap between these categories where you're hated. And Adrienne, I hate to say it, but I used to do jokes about this. And jokes become reality where I said, you go to these places and I hate you. I'm not even sure why. I'm not sure what category you fall into. I just hate you. That's become reality now. These numbers are staggering. How many people are attacked simply for existing? And the fact that people fear you so much because you exist that they think it's okay to attack and quite often kill you. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the answer is, but the answer, they want to stop education because education would make a difference. They want to stop integration of schools. Integration of schools does more to battle racism than you can imagine, because when kids are little kids, they're playing and they have a brown friend and they have an Asian friend, they have a Black friend and this and that, and they don't know the difference. They just know that they have friends. So they're like, well, let's put a stop to that.
Yeah, I think that's important. And it's really sad that a lot of people in the United States don't realize, they want to think that we're post-racial. And the reality is that we're not. The last school in the US that was desegregated was in 2016 in Texas. The fact is that we have significant problems and they're everywhere.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.